Jordan, how are you? Long time
Hello.
no see.
Hello, there he is. What's up?
Hey,
What's
pleasure to
up?
see you again. You got to meet Jeremy very briefly at the Billy Joel concert in New York in November.
Yeah, super fast. Dude, that wasn't November. That was like almost.
That was November 15th, 2019.
Yeah, it was over a year ago now. It's like weird, you know?
Seems like a really long time ago. Yeah, but that's cool. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, he's our number one on-air personality in Montreal, and so we do these together now.
Oh, all right. Number
Yay.
one.
Gotta love number one.
Yeah, number one, people.
And I'm happy to say that my background color kind of matches your microphone.
Yes, the windscreen. It matches.
We are somewhat coordinated. If you like, I can dial in a little bit of the orange yellow that you got.
Sure, why not? Let's get all the technical wizardry going on here. But
we'll be all matching. It'll be hilarious.
But always a great pleasure to talk to you. We love what you do. We love all the little gizmos at Wisdom Music, and we love this thing. So
thanks, guys. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
are you recording what you're going to do today? How you what? Tell me what your plan is, so I know.
Plan is to interview you and make us sound good. That's pretty much the plan.
About that.
Yeah. As good as we could possibly sound.
Okay, the audio seems pretty good. Do you want me to wear headphones, or is it just fine?
No, you sound good.
Okay,
good. All right, so Jeremy, I'll ball in your court.
Well, first of all, just talking about this liquid tension experiment coming out. New album LP3, March 26, 2021. I guess it's going to be available wherever music is sold, right?
That's hopefully what's going to happen. Yeah, that's the plan. It's a big release.
The big wide release, right?
Right.
Well, you never know. I mean, like a lot of people are just sticking to Spotify and Apple Music. Nobody's doing.
Absolutely, a lot of people doing that. Well, with Sony Inside Out, who's putting out this record. I mean, and our audience as well. There's still a lot of people who buy physical, stuff. So we're kind of like offering that. It'll be out on vinyl. It'll be out on CD. It'll be bonus CDs. It'll be every possible way that you could buy it in a physical form. This album will
Japanese bonus tracks and all of that.
We love it. Yeah. Let me just ask you. It's been 22 years, and of course, every interview is going to ask you about this. But why wasn't there time in the last 22 years to put something together? I mean, I know you've done all these other projects, and there's Dream Theater, and there's this and that. But why was this one sort of put on the back burner for 2 decades?
Sure. Well, it's a good question. I mean, it's not like, just from a personal point of view, at first that I didn't want to do it. I mean, people wanted to do it. But it was really a combination of a lot of things. Scheduling, weird record company stuff, turbulent band things that happen that we all know about, put all those things together. And you got a situation which really made us, have to wait. I mean, think about, the fact that the last Liquid Tension albums years ago are on Magna Carta Records, and that's kind of like, I even say that, and I start to.
I know,
but
so, but you mentioned band politics, but yet you're in a band with Mike Portnoy and John Petrucci, and Dream Theater has been putting out albums. So how did this one get weird?
Well, first of all, when we switched mics, that was
let's not confuse our mics.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, when we
right, Portnoy's not there anymore. We're at Mangini now. The guy. So yes, of course.
That's like well over 10 years now.
Yeah, yes, of course, and I know that. And listen, I've gotten older too.
Me too. So, I'm trying to keep up as well. But when that happened, it definitely made a situation that didn't make working together very smooth. So that was one of the major factors that made it wait even longer. So, so here we are. We had the inspiration, the time to do it, and we did. And I have a very strong feeling that this will happen again without having to wait 22 more years.
Right. But so let me ask you this, you're making a record with Portnoy and Petrucci, how is the creative process different from this potentially just being another Dream Theater record?
Well, I haven't worked with Portnoy in 11 years. So, and when we did the first Liquid Tension album, it wasn't another Dream Theater record either. The thing is, look at it from this approach. Like, what was liquid tension? What is liquid tension all about? It's coming into another entity. So right away it kind of means something different. And liquid tension from the beginning was like a melting pot for all the artists to kind of come in and like, I got this idea. Okay, I put in this wacky idea, whatever it is. Tony Levin's got something, he puts it in. Petrucci wants to try something jazzy. You know, we want to do Rhapsody in Blue. It was like that's why people do side projects. So even though it's a lot of the same guys, you can expect different things because the musicians, influences and their minds are not necessarily always in one zone. Let's call
you
it.
can kind of go wherever you want to.
Yeah, I mean, Dream Theater, I always say the Dream Theater, as wide as it is stylistically, I mean, it obviously has a lot of different things about it. It's not like just like pop music in any way, shape, or form, but it still has a bit of a brand to it. You step outside the brand, it's just not Dream Theater. Dream Theater can't do Rhapsody in Blue. Dream Theater can't really get away with doing a lot of the things that's on a Liquid Tension Experiment album. And so that's the beauty of it. It's just kind of, first of all, there's no singing on it. So it's stretched out. The leads are longer. Everybody gets to do these crazy solos. And, we just really get to expand and try different things. And that was the beauty of it in the beginning. And that was the beauty of it now.
Does it re-energize you creatively to have to not, write for vocal and be able to just do whatever you want and take it without any brand? Yes.
Let me just say, here's the real question. How does it feel to be off brand?
Oh yes. That's our inside joke, because poor Jeremy works for a top 40 radio. And when he interviews people like this, his program director goes, "That was off brand, Jeremy. You can't be doing that."
Yeah. Off brand can be really fun, right? It's a good thing. It's good. Yeah. But just, to respond to the first part of that, I mean, like, to write music without vocals in that kind of liquid tension thing, it's not like when I write music that incorporates vocals, I don't feel like it's necessarily holding me back in any way. If anything, that job is kind of like, oh wow, there's no vocals, so we better make sure that there's like a melody line, or just be really conscious that there's no singing, so you have to kind of like be careful. But there's this definitely a freedom, especially for me working with the Dream Theater guys as a keyboard player, because within the brand of Dream Theater, yeah, keyboards are cool and they're important, but they're not as big as a mountain like the guitar. I mean, the guitar is like king. So with Liquid Tension, there is definitely a little bit more of like a balance kind of thing. The keyboards tend to come out a bit more, and their prominence just is really felt in a different way.
Let me ask you this, because we were just talking to Billy Shearwood about the differences between regular rock and progressive rock and the musicianship that goes along with playing this type of music. How does songwriting happen for you guys? Like, do you come in with like a cool, like synth pad or some type of composition, and then the guys come on top of that? Like, because the music is just so interesting and so complex, and it always blows my mind how you guys create stuff like this.
Yeah, it is interesting the way it comes together, and usually it starts with some kind of a seed. Somebody's got some 8-bar thing, we got to come up with something to get the ball rolling. And that kind of, like, these days what happens is we get an idea, and then we'll jam on it, we'll hash it out. If we like it, we'll kind of like lay it down like in a demo form, right? And then we're kind of like, okay, well, what do we need next? We'll be like, that's a cool verse. Let's say it's a verse. Then we really need like a B section or a chorus. No, we don't necessarily write it exactly in order, but we kind of are searching for something that would fit the next move, So, and often what happens, especially with like Petrucci and I, is we feed off of each other. He goes dun 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 dun, and I'll go, oh, I can go dun 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 dun. Next thing you know, okay, that's cool, and then we start getting a lot of ideas, and we're shouting to the engineer, lay this down before I forget it, because we might still be working on the first section, but meanwhile somebody's vibing on what could happen for the next section.
Right.
So that happens a lot. Other things that could happen are, we get kind of inventive where, like, again, like Petrucci comes up with something and I'm like, wow, that'd be so cool if like I played something that really went against it in my right hand. It's kind of like like a counterpoint, and then I'll just like grab some music paper, and maybe while the other guys are talking or doing whatever the hell they're doing, I'm sitting there figuring out
Writing it out
for the next part, which is an interesting skill by itself, because very often in that environment, like we find ourselves composing when there's a lot of other noise going on. So
Right.
you kind of have this skill of blocking out, because we're working on stuff, but meanwhile you're trying to compose for the next section. So it's a very interesting way to write music, but it works for us. It really does. It does the trick. And sometimes, it's helpful if, like, the guys have left the room, and like personally I can sit quietly for a minute and just like hash something out, or change the mood, and just that helps. All it's a creative process, so all different ways, but really what makes it tick is that we feed off of each other, which is really
I'm going to ask you the layman dumb question, but when you do instrumental music, how do you know when the song ends?
No, that's a really good question.
That's a good question.
It's an excellent question, because the songs, especially like this, could go on and on.
Yeah, like why is the album not just one long 75-minute jam?
Let me tell you a funny story. So I was doing my last solo album, which was called Wired for Madness. And, I finally got the time. I was like, okay, I'm going to go in. I'm going to do this. So I'd go to the studio and I started working on it, and I'd write something and I put it I was using Logic, the sequencer, the DAW. So I do it. Next day I come in, I write some more. Next day I come in and I write some more. I'm just going. There's no stopping. There's no end of this piece, right? I mean, literally one section inspired the next section, inspired the next section, took a turn. I came in one day, I said to my wife, Danielle, I said, I'm writing this piece. It's wild. It's the most progressive thing I've ever written. It's
46 minutes long.
And literally, without even hearing it, she's literally said, "What are you doing?
There's an intermission."
You can't do that. You have to write some songs. So I kind of felt like, I was kind of mad. Like, what does she know? I'll just keep going. It's going to be an hour-long piece. Yeah. But then I thought about it, and of course, her voice of reason. I was like, okay, well, I gotta bring this piece to a close, and I gotta write some songs. The album ended up being a mixture of one like really long, title track, like 30 minutes long, and then some songs. So you could go on and on. But luckily, I do work with guys who have a very, very strong sense of architecture. So even besides my own talents, these guys have, probably even more of a sense of, okay, this part, we'll move this part here, and then it creates a song. And it's like, so believe it or not, even in like the Dream Theater, Liquid Tension world, there is consideration of what is this structure really gonna be. So there's a beginning and end. We've got hooks, and it might get a little more involved, or it does get more involved in a lot of ways. But sometimes we just decide on, this is going to be an epic, so just let it go. And that's literally the conversation in the studio. Guys, wow, this is really cool. Let's not constrain this. Let's just keep on throwing shit in there.
Right. This is the actual conversation. It's like, honey, come and check what we've done. Do you mind just?
Yeah. You got 17 minutes to just check out this demo.
Right. This little tune I'm writing.
Yeah, this little song. Oh, right. God.
Jordan, let me ask you, do you listen to like any pop music of today?
Do I listen to pop music? I listen to all kinds of stuff. I don't like sit down and put on a pop record necessarily.
Like, do you ever get in the car and you put on the radio and like it's on your local top 40 station, you hear like a Lady Gaga song or something?
I can't say that I do that. I'm more, I guess my guilty pleasure is listening to like the mellow rock station, the one that plays like, James Taylor or Cat Stevens, Elton John. It's maybe it's, getting more mature, that I just
yacht rock,
settling down into a more mellow vibe, And I tend to like mellow, spacey kind of like stuff, even if it's not like those old, classic things. I'll listen to like Blackfield, or, listen to Sigur Rós, or I'll listen to, just more kind of spacey, gentle things, or a Porcupine Tree, or stuff that's not, kind of like some of the prog that I make. I save that for my own compositions with the guys to get to.
Just real quick, since you mentioned Porcupine Tree, have you worked with Steven Wilson, or would you like to work with him? Because what he does in terms of mastering and engineering, just fantastic. Have you done anything with him?
Yeah, I played on a couple of his solo albums, actually. Okay. And we did a tour together where I went it was when the Blackfield guys couldn't be brought in from Israel, whatever, because of some problem. So they asked me to come with Aviv Geffen and Stephen Wilson, and I did a run with them, and I basically filled in all the sound with the keyboards. And so on that tour, when I played as part of the Blackfield setup, I also did a couple of songs with Steven, live, which was very nice. You can even find some of the stuff if you YouTube it.
If you YouTube it, yeah, he's
Yeah.
such a great talent.
Yeah, we definitely, have a lot of similarities in our musical approaches. So it's always nice to do things together.
Yeah, it's
absolutely
interesting
brilliant.
the list of musicians that you played with. Like I was just watching a video of you and Elijah Wood from Shania Twain's band jamming on YouTube the other day, and I was like, man, like Elijah, just an incredible drummer. And when she's on tour with Shania, it's completely different than what she would be doing with you.
Well,
Just before you answer real quick,
Yeah.
he is the biggest Shania Twain fan, so this is a geek moment for him. Just to let you know.
Awesome. So, like I was on the air, I was traveling to Europe or something like that, or coming back from Europe. Anyway, I was on the plane. Elijah was sitting right across from me. And so we were chatting, and all of a sudden, it was like before we took off, he at that point got a message saying, "You got the gig." Like literally at that moment.
Wow.
She found out that she was now the drummer of Shania Twain. So, but before that, Elijah was just playing like progressive, music, and I mean all kinds of stuff. But
Yeah.
I never thought, of Elijah.
Yeah, I mean, how do you go from playing all that crazy stuff to playing "Man, I Feel Like a Woman"? It's
when you're a great musician,
great drummer.
You just can do it. And yeah, she was fantastic at the Prague stuff, and just did it very well.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of my favorite concerts in 2015, the first tour that she did with her. It was like just powerhouse. And to be honest, Mitch loves it when I bring this up. Mutt Lange's right-hand man, Nigel Green, was doing the live sound mix, and the drums just sounded monstrous. So
yes, I saw that tour as well, and I got to say that Elijah just killed it. There's a lot of energy, really great.
Yeah,
really all smiles.
Do you see yourself working with her again at some point, like doing some little project, or
maybe? Yeah, that could happen. Sure, I don't have any plan for that, but she's so awesome, and we've been actually family friends. I've known Elijah since she was like 2 years old.
Wow.
So,
see, that's great.
Hey, Mitch, do you know who her parents are?
Yeah, I'm very good friends with the parents. Yeah, Mark and Laura.
Yeah, Mitch, do you know what band they do?
Mark and Laura? No. What?
It's I was going to say Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Is it Trans-Siberian Orchestra?
Mark played with Trans-Siberian.
Yeah.
Orchestra.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Sings, but I don't think she ever did anything
with Joel Hoekstra and Nathan James and all those. So of course we're going to have to go back to the obvious question. Haven't played with Mike in blah 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 so many years. What was it like having him back in? Were there any ill feelings that needed to be worked out first? I mean, did you have to have sort of a counseling session first, or it's just like, hey, Mike, come on back. It's been too long. We're too old for this. Let's just play.
Well, I always, for the years, stayed in touch with Mike. We just would,
of course,
have friendly texts and everything like that. And I did join Mike for the Cruise to the Edge tour. We did the Instrumedley, it's called, the progressive thing that we wrote with Dream Theater. So our relationship was pretty good. And so that was, so falling into the groove with him again for this was really easy. And John Petrucci actually paved the way work-wise, because he had Mike come in and play on a solo album. So he, the clouds had parted already and things got back to a nice gentle space. And we actually recorded the LTE3 album at the Dream Theater headquarters. And it was all fine. It was mellow. And Mike,
you get to a certain age where you just have to say, let's just move on.
And Mike is such an interesting, talented, unusual person that, he in the old days, I just feel like sometimes his energy was like, wow, a lot to kind of wrap your head around. But now he's kind of like settled. He's still, like doing a million things and extremely productive and plays drums great. He's also a little bit more kind of like calm and
zen,
a little bit easier to work with. Yeah.
So the Sons of Apollo Dream Theater tour could happen.
Why not? Do you have to go to Mike Mangini before you work with Portnoy again and say, hey, Mike, listen, this thing's going to be coming out. Don't worry about it. Your gig is fine.
Sure, you want to be respectful of everybody, and there is sensitivity there, and that makes sense. So before we did this, and with James too, and John Myung is so mellow that it's not that necessary. But yeah, everybody gets the respectful. Hey, we're going to be going in, we're going to be doing this, just so you know, and this just
Yeah.
understand we're doing it right.
Nobody's like, well, why are you doing that? Like, what the hell?
We reached a point where it's kind of like, you do what you do, and
Just do your thing.
you don't want to have to be an asshole about it. But LTE was destined to get back together again. I mean, there was more requests for this band than anything I've ever done in my whole life. Every day, multiple times a day. When's LTE getting back together? Like, shut up already now.
Yeah.
But,
Hey,
Well,
LTE3.
let's quickly bring it back to it. One last question is Rhapsody in Blue. Of course, it's Gershwin. What was that like, bringing that sort of to modern times? I mean, here's a thing that's been sitting around for whatever it is, 50, 60, 70 years. Talk to me about bringing that to fans now and putting your own stamp on it.
Yeah, that was awesome. I mean, we had done Rhapsody in Blue live the last time Liquid Tension played gigs many years ago. And Mike came forward when we were, finally decided to do this. He was like, guys, we really should do Rhapsody in Blue for the record. And I was like, oh no, because my first thought was, that's like a big piece. And it's been so many years. Where's my score for it? What sounds did I use? Like, I just saw all it read to me was like, this is going to be a hell of a lot of work. Kind of like relearning it, redoing it. Didn't even have the same synthesizer around. It's long gone, or it's broken in a closet. So, after I got over that, I was kind of like, okay, if we're going to do this, then I got to decide on my approach, because the first time I did it was a lot like live kind of sounds, but this time, after I settled down about the whole idea of it and realized that, yes, this is a good idea, I took a more orchestrational approach, and I went in with all my software and all my stuff, and I really went to town with it, coloring it with all kinds of sounds of pianos and orchestras and steel drums and sound effects and da 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 da. Yeah, so it turned, and I'm really proud of the way it turned out. It's cool, but definitely it wasn't like, oh yeah, let's do Rhapsody in Blue.
No, I mean, it's a big piece. I mean,
it's a big piece, and I literally couldn't find the score, like the score that we used because we changed a lot of things. So.
But I mean, on the album, I'm just looking at it's a 13 and a half minute version. I mean, it's 13 and a half. It's
13 minutes.
If you're going to play something like that live, do you have the sheet music in front of you and you're performing it, or is it all just in your head?
It depends, on what it is. Something like that, if and when maybe we do it live. First of all, I got to figure out how the hell to do all that orchestration.
How you pull it off.
That's the first thing, which I've done that type of kind of, what's the word, compression of a score to, figure out how to do something that's complicated live. But I might have some music in front of me telling me, because I usually do a lot of complicated splits and layers in the keyboard and put sounds in funny places to get the job done. Maybe the French horn will be like with my thumb, and the timpani will be with my pinky, and this kind of knows to let me understand how to make that happen.
You're really doing like a workout on the keyboard.
Oh yeah.
Like that.
No,
do you ever use any kind of tracks to help you out?
I don't. But
okay.
Sometimes in musical situations I will, like when we did The Astonishing, there was so much orchestration going on, and a lot of it was real orchestra on the album. So we decided to leave that in, although I kind of like extended it even more and added orchestration within my keyboard, but we let some tracks play. So that was a tour that, there were definitely tracks. For the most part, I'll just use tracks for like opening sound effects, maybe because the lights are still out, when the band's going to kick in. I don't need to sit there and be triggering like the beginning of Metropolis or something like that. That can be on a backing track. So I like to, I like to make sure that there's as much energy going into the keyboard and in my performance as possible. And if I put things on backing track, number one, I wouldn't be able to stay in shape at the keyboard, but also I feel like there'd be a lack of real connection and energy, which I want there to be the maximum of that.
Right.
When you guys
And
do
yeah.
play the tracks, like in your in-ear, because there was recently a tape leaked of a pretty big rock band of their in-ear monitor mix, and it has the click track and all the cues like verse 2, 3, sing, and all those things. Do you guys have those things running and those like audio cues like in your in-ears?
It's funny. We all have different things in our in-ears. Like Mike Mangini, I have never even heard it, but I'm sure we would all chuckle if we heard it because there's all kinds of stuff, going on, voices and cues and counts and whatever the hell else he does that he's told us he has. With me, I have cues, like I'll have like cowbell kind of cues to wake me up in case I took a nap or something, that in 3 beats my section's coming in, or if there's a part even it's very complicated and you can't really rely on the venue to have a really clean sound, I'll put a click in it so I can be locked, so I mean, yeah, like little helpers like that. Mostly for me it's like click things at those moments where it's like, wow, I really want to make sure I keep this part together, and the click will really help.
It's amazing everything that rock stars go through to deliver a great show. So, when you see a guy on Twitter go, it's like, hey, motherfucker, look at everything we've gone through to give you this experience. Like, just enjoy it.
It's just I hate seeing people moan about bands playing the tracks on Twitter and social and stuff. And I'm like, they're doing everything they can to give you the best show possible.
Yeah,
get your money worth. Like, don't be complaining.
Totally. I mean, let's face it. Most bands, almost, I'd say 95% of them, use a lot of tracks. Unless it's like a hardcore metal bands, it's very raw. But I mean, professional bands are out there and they want it to sound like the album, and and they run tracks. It's just what it is. I mean, in my case,
listen,
probably run less tracks than others because, hey, I'm,
But when you're an arena band, and you're charging 100, 150, $300, $600, like The Weeknd is charging, you can't afford it to have an off night. It has to be good every night because that fan just paid $300. He didn't pay $300 to hear feedback, and he wants to see a show. So
But then there's also that argument that people say, oh, well, if I wanted to hear the album, I just sit at home and put on the CD.
So I'll stay at home.
Yeah. And I think there's a balance. I mean, in general, well, I mean, if we look at Dream Theater these days, in this period of our career, it's very much about putting on a very dialed in show. We're not doing what we used to do, is like, Portnoy would slip something under the door or whatever, saying, oh, tomorrow we're going to play A Matter of Time off the first album. We go, what? And everybody would kind of like learn it and freak out. And then we go and maybe we would fuck up, but it'd be okay. But, it's like fans would dig it. But, a different kind of a balance. These days, it's more about, we're going to tell the lighting guy, this is the set, these are the possible changes we'll make, so be prepared on this leg, this is going to happen. So we run it like a Broadway show. I mean, our show is tighter than ever before in Dream Theater history because we're running it like that, and we appreciate that. Personally, what happens for me is that I will leave some things open. Like we were talking the other night, John Petrucci and I were on an internet call with all the fans and everything, and one of the questions was about the leads we play. How do we approach the leads? And John was like, I really try to make the leads just like the album. I feel like that's what I want to express because I work hard on these leads and I want to play it just like the album. And then it came to me, I was like, you know what? I totally, I understand that completely, but I want to leave open the inspiration from the energy I'm feeling that night. And a lot of times, like half the leads I play, I'm just going to wing it. I'm going to play whatever the hell comes into my head that night. And sometimes it'll be fantastic. It'll be like, wow, what's that? And other times it'll suck, but at least I'm leaving it open to, I want to do that. And also whenever there's like comping, in the song, and I'll improvise. It's not.
You want to have some fun. That's the fun thing about playing live.
I think so. So there are parts that I definitely can change up, and I'll do different voice leading and things, and have fun with it and do stuff. And I like that, and it's still dialed in. I mean, that's kind of in my own way to fill in my part, and it's not like it's in your face, like something's totally different. But it's little subtle things that will make a difference, and that's what I like to do.
Yeah, and it's great.
As long as you guys don't ever take out As I Am out of the set, I will continue to go see you every time you play Montreal.
All right, I'll remember that next time we put together a set.
He's requesting songs from every band. Last thing, are you still doing the apps? Are you still doing all the music apps?
Yes, I'm
And
very.
what's the latest one?
Music apps. So, all right. So here's the app report.
The app report. Yes.
My latest app that is available in the App Store is called GeoShred. It's been out for a number of years now, but it keeps evolving. GeoShred is this great, it's turned into a platform. And the reason I call it a platform is because it's a MIDI controller. So it runs on iOS technology, iPad, iPhone. It's a MIDI controller. It can control any external synthesizer or internal instrument in the iPad and use all the cool kind of like pitch bending and all the stuff that geoshred can do. It's also a tone module for anything. You could plug an instrument into it and play. It's based on a technology called physical modeling, which is, you can think of it as another way to electronically generate sound. It's very organic. It's done with mathematical models instead of like recordings, like sampling. It's a really different kind of thing. So the latest thing for GeoShred is that we released a bundle that we call the SWAM bundle. It's basically all new physical models. It's, I think, 6 new instruments like violin, saxophone, cello, oboe, clarinet, flute. Wow. And they sound really beautiful. We partnered with a company called Audio Modeling, and we've got this amazingly very high level instruments that you can play within GeoShred. So now we're expanding the whole tonal landscape of GeoShred by offering these instruments. So that's really fun.
You can compose like a piece of music, like a full orchestra piece, and put it into this. And would it perform it if you program like all the MIDI stuff? And
well, GeoShred, think of it like this: it's mostly geared towards like solo kind of instruments, although you can play chords in some of the sounds. Like all the instruments I just told you about, they're beautiful solo instruments. So if you want to play a violin solo, a cello solo, a sax solo, that's kind of what GeoShred is great for. There's 1 or 2 models that you can play like polyphonically, but the majority of the sounds are more like for kind of soloing.
Nice.
So yeah, so that's so GeoShred.
And you program it all yourself?
No, I'm not a coder. I work with.
Okay.
I have a partnership with the guys out of Stanford University, out of Karma.
Wow.
So Karma is the division that focuses on electronic music, and they're the ones who invented FM synthesis, and they also invented physical modeling. And so kind of, over the years, I befriended guys at Stanford, and we decided to work together on this particular app. So the other small piece of app news is I'm working on some new stuff. I had 2 apps. Mitch, you might remember it from the old days. I had one called MorphWiz and one called SampleWiz. And now this year, we're releasing MorphWiz Pro and SampleWiz Pro. So it's going to be really.
That's great, because
That's
Jeremy's the studio rat. He loves all this stuff.
Yeah, and Mitch doesn't know the difference between an oboe and an elbow.
Well, we're here to tell you. On a separate conversation.
It's a separate conversation. Anyway, Jeremy.
Well, dude, this is great, man. Listen, LTE3, March 26th. I'm stoked to hear this album. It's going to be great. And you guys are printing vinyl, which is awesome. So
vinyl, you'll enjoy that. There you go. Dust off that record player. Here we go.
Here we go.
Dust off that mat, people.
Exactly.
But anyway, as we say in Montreal, merci beaucoup. Always a pleasure. It just never gets old. This is great.
Yeah.
Well, nice to see you. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Bonsoir.
Support, and let me know when you're going to air, and we'll help to get the word out.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Awesome. We'll send you the links.
Very cool. Okay.
Cheers. Yeah, I'll email you. Cheers.
Cool. Have a great day, guys.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
See you later, man.
Bye.
There you go. That was beautiful.